What's up, YouTube? This is Russell from Russell's Reef coming to you with episode 22 of the Waterbox 70.3 build. This episode, we're going to take a look back at the first year of the tank. Got a couple shots just comparing month by month the tank's progression and crash, and then back to today. So let's take a look. So here we go. This is actually the tank today. It's looking real nice. I was battling a bunch of cyano and dinos and algae after the tank crash about a month ago, and it finally turned the corner just in time for me to go back to work. So yeah, the tank's looking actually really good right now, best it's looked in a long time, so I'm happy with that. But basically this episode, we're just gonna do a little time lapse, go over how the tank's progressed over the first year. Got a bunch of shots. The dating on the bottom isn't exactly right. It was just a guesstimate, but here we go. So basically, as we go through the months, you can just kind of see the tank progress. Everything went really smoothly, and as you can tell, I added acros and SPS pretty early on, and everything actually ended up doing all right. So that was a great success for the tank, even though I later on ended up losing all those acros. But it just goes to show you can add them early, but it's definitely easier to add acros to established tanks. Here we are at about day 80. I think the next, so moving on from here, these full tank shots are all after Reefapalooza. You can see there's a bunch of new acros, and you can just kind of watch them grow month by month. They were all doing really good. I didn't really lose any acros for a pretty long time, so you can see them. Everything's thriving. Tank looks awesome. You can see that torch on the bottom doing great. Unfortunately, that torch didn't make it, but I loved it while I had it. Yeah, so here we are about half a year in. Everything's thriving, looking good. You can just watch. Everything was going really well until I got Montipora eating black bugs, and it just was kind of like a reset after I had to treat for them, and you'll see that soon in a couple of the shots. Basically, once you see that the Monty cap kind of start to bleach out in the green and the purple, lose color, that's when I had the bug. So I had to treat that, and that was kind of like a tank reset, basically. Basically what I treated with the dip I used, it just killed all the bugs in my tank. So here's it starting. You can see everything looks pretty good here, but it definitely caused huge algae outbreaks and kind of just was basically like a reset for the tank. And that's kind of when things started going a little south. Nothing that couldn't be fixed. The acros were still doing fine, but definitely add a lot of algae. One thing that kind of sucks is all these videos were taken under blue light, so you can't really see all the algae. Well, here you can see like tons of algae. So if I took it under daylights, it'd look a lot worse. But here's right before I added the Reflux or Flux RX, and basically wiped out all of my acros. So there they go. They're all gone. And then the frog spawns are on their way out. You can see they're kind of closed up. They died a little after all the acros, but it's pretty crazy. I lost every single acro in the tank. The Digitatas and the Montiporas lived, but every acro died, which is pretty insane. But looking back now, here's some current shots. The tank is back on track, and since I lost those acros, I was able to finally add an enemy, which I've been wanting for a while. So I think that could be a big mistake in adding an enemy, because they can move around. I'm sure it'll get big. I'm sure it'll split. I'm sure it'll kill a lot of things, but it looks really cool now. And as you can see, my clowns are starting to take to my Goniopora, so the Goni's hosting the clowns, which the red one seems to be tolerating it just fine, but the blue one behind it is not looking too great. So there's basically no stopping them. They kind of just use anything to host on. They do the zoas, they do
pretty much everything except for the anemone right now, but I'm pretty certain that eventually they'll find that nem up there in the top right corner, and then they'll take to that, and then hopefully they'll just be hanging out front and center in the tank, which will be really cool to watch. Aside from that, I just kind of want to talk about the struggles I had to get the tank back on track. Basically, the main issue I was having was I had like a huge algae outbreak, and the treatment kind of reset the tank. But the biggest issue was I had a dinoflagellates outbreak, and it was basically just on the sand, and it was very hard to get rid of. I tried to do the same thing, up my nutrients and add some biodiversity. But the main problem I was having was it was killing all my snails. So the snails couldn't eat the algae, and then on top of that, they died, which fueled the algae. So it was basically just a vicious cycle. But I finally broke it somehow. I think I just kept trying to add nutrients, keep my phosphates a little bit higher, around 0.05 to 0.1, and get my nitrates around 10, and just kind of keep them there. And then I did do some water changes because I was trying to manually remove all of the dino and cyano that was on the sand bed. And then finally, after doing months of water changes and manually removing all the algae, basically literally like the day I went back to work, I came back and the dino was finally gone, and now I got more cleanup crew, and they're really taking care of all the algae. So the tank looks really good right now, so that is definitely a positive sign. Another thing I want to talk about in regards to the cleanup crew is I had a bad experience with emerald crabs in the beginning. I think my tank was just, there wasn't enough algae for them, and once it was clear of algae, the emerald crabs started going after my gonophora and my frog spawn, and definitely different corals. Like, I definitely caught them in the act. They're definitely doing damage, especially the gonophora. So I took them out and put them in the sump. When I had this latest outbreak, I added a bunch of snails once the dino was gone, and they were surviving. And then I think that emerald crabs are like pretty amazing when it comes to cleanup crew. I have two of them in here, and they definitely go to town and basically just take care of everything that the snails can't hit. So right now I got a really good balance. The snails are doing their job. I think 2 emerald crabs are taking care of all the deeper pockets of hair algae, and the tank is pretty stable and looks super clean. I mean, there's a couple patches still of some turf algae, but everything else is starting to look really good. So definitely awesome to see the tank turn around. I was hoping it would turn around a lot faster than this, but it's been like I said, I was home for about a month and a half, and the whole time the tank looked pretty garbage. And the day I went back to work, I came home, the tank looked amazing. So that's kind of just how it works, but it's good to be back on track. And right now the tank basically feels like it's on cruise control. So definitely good news. Probably gonna add a couple more acros and then just let everything grow in for a while and just enjoy it. So I just want to close out this video with a little sump update. It's been a while since we've checked out the engine room of the tank, so let's go ahead and take a look. I did make a few changes. I kind of made a new compartment in the middle. I tried to make like a little makeshift algae scrubber, as you can see right there. It's kind of working, but it kind of serves two purposes. Basically, more than being an algae scrubber, I just wanted to keep the light out of that section of glass so algae wouldn't grow in there, and it's worked good. I did add Chaeto again, and it is really taking off this time, which is awesome. I've never actually had much luck with it, but this time it seems to be just cruising. So it is something I kind of have to keep an eye on. I don't want to get too out of control and suck up all my nutrients, but right now the tank is pretty balanced and the Chaeto is growing great. I did do like a vacuum shop vac out of the sump a little while ago, so It's clean, Chato's growing, and everything is going good. All right, I think that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next time.